Welcome to This Week in Pulling, the show that brings you all the action from the world of tractor and truck pulling. I'm Dan Mayer, joined by Jeremy and Miles Krieger, and each week we'll dive into the latest highlights, breaking news, and behind-the-scenes stories from the sport we all love. From upcoming events, standout performances, and the rich history that shaped pulling into what it is today, we've got you covered. So buckle up, This Week in Pulling starts now. Well, welcome back to This Week in Pulling, episode 11. I'm Dan Mayer, joined by my good pals, Jeremy and Miles Krieger. Guys, welcome back.
Hi, Dan. How are you? I've run out of fingers. I can't do 11. I can go 10 and 1. We can't do it anymore. Well,
Yes.
Thanks for being here, everybody. And it's good to see you guys again for another Wednesday evening session of talking about the sport we love so much. Miles?
Yeah, definitely lots to be excited about here in the coming days and weeks, and as we ramp up for big pulling season in terms of Champions Tour and Grand National and Outlaw Point Series and all the regional level point series. I think we've had some kind of what we call non-points hooks, but chance for some test and tune and some dial in. And now it's time for us to start to put all that hard effort and time that folks have put in over the course of the last 6 months to work and get out here and battle for some points.
Now, Miles, you're sounding good here. We've been a bad couple of weeks here, and you've overcome looks like you're on the good side of this thing.
Yeah, I'll just be completely honest with you. This last maybe 6 or 7 weeks, I have not felt the greatest. Just a lot of fatigue and kind of just not felt well. And so I've had some blood work done, and there's nothing really showing anything. But needless to say, a lot of fatigue. And I think it's just the series of my life right now, running around like chasing kids and the end of the school year and sheep season as we are. We just got back from a 3-day event in Springfield, Illinois at the Illinois State Fairgrounds, and a lot of work and time and planning, but got to rest a little bit while we were gone and got to rest yesterday, which was a blessing. And I feel a little bit more rejuvenated than I have in a while.
And of course, baseball coach as well, right? I mean,
8U softball, got a little boy playing, following my beloved Chicago Cubs as we speak here, trying to see how we are doing against the Rockies at Wrigley tonight, and just trying to see what we can do. But yeah, middle school track season concluded. My wife was a middle school track and field coach. I'm coaching Lindley's 8U softball team. Locke's playing baseball, and we're showing sheep. So we are just kind of keeping the candle burning.
Now, Jeremy, last weekend we spent the weekend Sunday. We visited the snake pit.
We did. Well, and that's what I was going to say. Miles was talking about rest, and I was going to ask you, did you get some rest? Because we had a very early wake-up call Sunday morning. We were on the road by 4:30 a.m., and we hit Speedway, Indiana about 6:35-ish. The place we usually park this year was full. So we thought we were kind of out of luck. And as we turned into the place and realized the parking lot was full, we just happened to look down this little new side street that we were on. And before you knew it, we were parking for $20 and, waiting for my son Bradley to kind of wake up, as he was in a fog the whole way up north, sleeping in the back. And we got him awake and got the other crew that was with us. And we headed into the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and straight to the snake pit. Yeah, I wanted Bradley to see that, of course, and you and I, of course, have seen it last year. And I tell you, I've told some friends, I feel like everybody should experience the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at least one time in their life. And I will tell you, to me, the people watching there is better than the State Fair and Walmart at midnight on a Saturday. Like it's the greatest thing in the world. Like we have, it's just a ball. 350,000 plus. At least the weather was better this year. I mean, 2 years ago we went in a monsoon. We were kind of questioning what we were doing, freezing out there in the cold all day, and the race started 4 hours late. But man, we had a great time. And once the race started, I don't know if you would agree with me, but I felt like it was kind of boring. Like they just sort of spaced out. And everybody kind of sat still for the next 480 miles till we got 20 laps to go, and then it was Katie bar at the door.
Yeah, they decided to go, but it just seemed like everybody was just kind of sitting back, and we had quite a few needless wrecks there in there, so it kind of
one on the pace lap. I was thinking
Yeah.
about that. I was thinking, you remember the year that Juan Pablo Montoya hit a jet dryer under caution? Like it was kind of the same thing. This guy just folds up the Pennzoil car, like warming up his tires.
up the tires. Yeah, like
I looked at the guy next to me in the stands and I said, "Tell me you're fired without telling me you're fired." So I don't know if that'll happen or not, but boy, we had a great time. And I tell you, I don't know about you, Dan, but those Apache helicopters leading the cars around the track at low,
that was cool.
That was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
I've seen a lot of cool, pre-race stuff with NASCAR and stuff over the years, but that had to take the cake right there. Now, one year that I went to Charlotte, they were doing, they did like a military for the 600. They did like a military thing where they brought a helicopter in and, they did like, they were some kind of military mission. That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this was neat watching them actually go down the track. And
I had never seen anything like that in the first 2 whole laps of the race. The producer Jay.
Yeah, there you go.
Got the Pennzoil guy already wrecked out. Yeah, that's awesome. That's good work there. And then Scott Dixon's brakes were on fire.
Yeah, poor Dixon was on fire there before they even.
Yeah,
crazy. A lot of crazy things happening there.
Yeah, absolutely. Overcast. The track wasn't as warm as it probably could have been. Oh, like this is going to be in-car watch. Warm on the tires, and oops, there we go. Boom.
Oops.
They're not even under green there. That's just straight yellow.
Now, to be a fly on the wall with Pennzoil on Tuesday this morning,
Yikes. Yeah.
Tuesday morning. What do you tell your sponsor?
Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to be in those, I don't want to be an armchair quarterback, but I can guarantee you that, after spending a whole month up there for getting this car ready to race, they expected more than that for sure. But boy, we had a great time. And if you guys out there have never been to the 500 and you've thought about it, just do it. Just trust us on this one. Get up there and watch it. There's nothing like seeing 33 cars at 230 plus miles an hour just zipping in front of you. It's amazing. It's a wonderful thing. Yes. And we got to hear Alan Beswick this year, which is pretty awesome. Kind of one of our heroes in the broadcasting.
The announcing gig, and
great to see him back there. And for IMS this year, it was really, really good to hear his voice and see him back out. So it was a great day for sure.
And they said they set a record for a crowd. Sold out since the 50th or the 100th anniversary, right? That was the first time
absolutely. And I think it was. I mean, there were every bit of 350,000 people. But I know you and I talked about this, Dan. But we got back to the car and we were on 465 in 7 minutes from the time we left the little yard we were in, which was probably 3 miles away from the expressway.
Yes,
we just the ISP has it figured out in terms of getting people that. Oh yeah, this was that fire. I think this one was pretty scary. If this is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that was
Ross. This poor gas man got burned right there. But that was kind of right in front of us, really, right where we were. We were right across from that when it happened. It was pretty crazy. But,
and the bad part is Rossi had a quick car too.
He did. Yeah, they that whole Ed Carpenter team was good. And Rossi was just not very happy there. But I don't know if they'll show. Oh yeah, this was a good one. Locking the brakes up, coming in and hitting the wall, and then Schwartzman did the same thing. Yeah, that was VK.
Yep. Yeah, that was right in front of us too. That was another one that was right to the left of us there. And
he was going way too fast. Could not get her woed down coming into the pits there, and unfortunately folded her up. And then this was when. Who's is this the Pennzoil car or the this is when this is Takuma Sato coming in here for pits, and he was
overshot
his pit
took him out of the deal there.
Robert Schwartzman was very shortly there and hit one of his crew members against the wall as well. Right here. Bang. It hit the whole crew. Yeah, all this happened right in front of us. It was pretty crazy because we had really good seats. Yeah, and that's another thing I would say. If you guys go, make sure you get good seats in the paddock under the grandstand. So if it does rain, you're dry. But the race sort of finished out here. It got kind of boring. They spaced out, and then Alex Pillow took over, and they had nothing for him there at the last. But a good day for sure. Absolutely. Yes. And thanks.
Very exciting. And but hey, we got Poland coming up here.
Yeah, it's almost time. Yeah, you'll be headed to Minnesota here pretty soon, a week or so.
next weekend. And of course, guys, the big announcement today, the Enderle Pull-Off is now a points event. Let's hash this out a little bit here, and what's everybody's thoughts on it. The NTPA broke the news today on that, and I mean, for so many years, it was ran as a companion event at different venues over the years: Columbus, Ohio, Fort Recovery, before making its way to Urbana, and a standalone event now. Now it's going to be a points event. Miles, why don't you get us started with your thoughts on this one?
Thanks, Dano, for letting
me
go.
We've been away for a little bit. We thought we'd put you right in the fire, and
yeah,
we're all going to get our shot. So
I'll be honest with you. I have some conflicting thought process on it a little bit. I understand, I think, from the NTPA's perspective, where it really gains for them. Let's just be honest. When the final points hook occurs, for a lot of folks, that sort of takes away that drive and the ability for them to, want to push to put a tractor back together to make it to the Enderle Pull-Off. For farmers, they're already in the field at that point, or they've been waiting to get in the field to finish. And so at times the Enderle has become something that folks do pass on. Now, that does not in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion, discredit the importance and the coolness of the event and the standalone event that's been going on, for Kent Enderle and his family, that they have, so eloquently and awesomely put on for the last over 40 years, I think it is. So for me, I love the event that I've been able to attend, and I think it's neat and unique in itself. Do I, as a fan, want to see the top 5 in the points there? Yes. Do I think this guarantees it? Yes. Yes, I do. I think this puts them in that position to put them there. You're going to get your top 5 guys, and they're all going to extend their season a little bit farther. I think this also, in a pretty good way, will strategically make that person who is leading the points have to put even more thought into how they want to choose where they pull in the class. So for those that don't maybe know as much about the Enderle, they follow that order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basically gets to choose where they hook, and I think that will even more so be important. So for me, if I'm that points leader, I might likely want to be 5th. That way, I know how far I've got to go, and I know what I need to do in order to continue to keep my points championship. But I think it'll be really cool in this sense. And, I think as they look at it, there often has been discussion of a track changing and causing someone to lose a points championship. And if you have a scenario like you guys both experienced in Canton last year, where you have 8 trucks that roll onto the property with a mathematical chance of winning, I think this takes away a lot of that subjective thought of, does the track go away? What's the temperature like? All of these sorts of things. Those 5 trucks or tractors are going to run in a 15-minute time frame, and you're not going to experience that much change, I don't believe. So because of that, maybe at the end of the day, it's really truly the best puller wins that event and wins the points.
And, to add to that, Miles, I asked John Dunlap earlier about this. Say, for instance, a puller that's in the 6th position, maybe a half a point behind, are they going? And it's cut off at 5. So if you mathematically had a shot, from 6 through 10, that's it. Sorry, that's no longer in the mix.
You officially finished 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah. So I thought, how like NASCAR kind of over the years, they kind of tweak things, is like, well, if you were in so many points of, we might give you, but John had said, no, it's going to be strictly, if you're not in 5, sorry. So it, that kind of, excludes somebody that might have been, on the cusp of maybe making it in there, or, so that's kind of one of the things I was kind of surprised, by that. But
I do think last year was a bit of an anomaly. I mean, I don't think we always have that sort of scenario where you have a class where 7 or 8 or 9 vehicles have that mathematical chance. Now, it's not to say that there isn't a pretty close battle between 5th and 6th, or 4th, 5th, and 6th, or something like that. But for us to look down the list and be able to say, hey, the truck here at number 8 has a chance to potentially win the points title. That's not something we are usually debating,
Right.
come Canton time. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm very resistant to change. I'll just admit that. I'm a very, very, I wear the same shirt to work each day of the week. I'm very regimented in what I do. When I go for a run, I run down the driveway and I turn and I run the same route, and I don't deviate much from my same path. And so, it's hard for me because I wouldn't think to change the Enderle Pull-Off. But I also will say, I think a point series change for NASCAR brought some more excitement into it. I think the playoff for the NHRA brought some more excitement to it. And maybe in this particular instance, more fans are interested to try to get to the Enderle Pull-Off to see who wins that points championship and the big check from Enderle.
Well, one thing that I really like about this is now all the champions will be crowned at one event. That was one thing with Wheatland, Missouri, with PPL over the years. That was always great because all your champions were crowned at that weekend and that event. And, that was, like now the NTPA, you've got, Sandwich, some champions are crowned there, Canton. So now it brings them all there, and
I guess crowned some at Bowling Green last year, even, you think about.
That's right. But yeah, well, we had that Super Stock Open. Remember, that was 4 or 5 competitors had a shot at the championship there too.
Yes, sir.
Well, so the night before Canton, they were where the mini rods were crowned the night Friday night. They were in Wauseon. So they crowned the mini rod champion there. We crowned the super stock, and we crowned 2-wheel drive that in Canton.
Yep. So yeah, it kind of brings them all together for one championship. But as a fan, that's a win-win. Like, hey, that's,
I agree.
To get them all there and do that. But like you say, then I don't know. You'd have to look back and see if there was I can't recall off the top of my head somebody that made such a, like you said, Miles, a big points charge like that at the end of the year, to warrant, somebody back in 6 or 7 spot. You know what I mean? That,
sure.
But
I think there's a lot of positivity that will come from the puller's perspective also to know that it's got to be there. Like I said, I do think the pushing the season back a week, there are people that opt out because their vehicle's broke, or they opt out because they got to get in the field. Right. And so I think that demand, if they've run the whole season, they're not going to push back. They're going to be there, and they'll thrash to get everything back together and come run one more weekend. And that makes me think that, Urbana, Ohio will be the place to be September 13th and that time frame, or right around there to truly take it all in. So, I will say this, kudos to the NTPA for not just sticking to the norm and making some changes. Right. If you haven't noticed, over the course of the last 6 months, they've made some changes. They've changed several things. And I think that, if we want to watch this sport grow and we want to stay out of the complacency sort of discussion, we've got to make some changes. Right. And roll the dice and get outside of our comfort zone. And I'm not that type of person. That's not me. I'm a very calculated, on the brake type of person, as opposed to on the gas pedal and offensive. But I understand, and I do agree with that. And I think there's a lot of positivity that comes from some outside thinking. And like I said, I expect ticket sales to go up. I expect more people to be there. I hope vehicles aren't all wounded when they arrive, and you have 5 that come loaded for bear in every one of those classes. And I think it could be pretty cool. And I really hope you don't have number 1 people in all the points that have already sealed the deal.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. I hope you got a couple little.
I hope there's some mathematic chances for the 5th place guy to get first. And vice versa. Yeah, I think based on what I read on that newsletter or on the document, we're going to keep the same points format.
Yeah, the 30, 20,
30, 29, 28, 27, 26 for 1 through 5. So nothing changes there. We don't have double points or anything to sway it. We're keeping the exact same format, and we just deem first based off of who has the most points after the Enderle now.
Yep, and then also the regional part of it stays the same. So like in the afternoon, how they run the afternoon session there with the regional classes, those will all stay the same. Obviously, you can't have, multiple regions running for, championships. So they're just going to stay with that part of it there. So, that won't change as far on the regional side, but like you say, the Grand National side is the big change there. So, all right, well, let's talk. We're talking about NTPA here. Let's talk about the season ahead here for the NTPA Grand National Circuit. Was supposed to get started this weekend here down in Benson, North Carolina. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get everything together for that event. And we've all had the opportunity to be down there and at that event there, and the facility, first-rate facility, and hats off to Earl and his group down there, Earl Wells, and Dana Strickland, John Strickland, everybody that put on those events over the years, and thank them for everything that they did, because the facility, first rate all the way around, and we've seen some really good crowds down there, and hopefully they get everything sorted out here moving forward.
Absolutely, but it'll have a great day.
It's pretty devastating for me in that particular instance, and Jeremy, I don't know. I know it's been 2 years maybe since you've been down there, but the new restroom and shower and some of the things that Mr. Wells did in order to enhance the competitor experience and make things better for them at the pulling venue makes me hope that they continue to have utilization of the pulling venue, because it is just a first-class space. And last year, while the crowd was not ideal in terms of what I think we all would hope for sitting in the bleachers, Mr. Wells was not disappointed with the amount of people that were there. It was a pretty decent crowd, but the vehicles just kept coming and coming and coming. And we had some big classes, great competition, and it was a pretty awesome start to the 2024 Grand National season. So, from the storyline perspective, I hate it because I think it was a neat trip.
For sure. And you need events like that. You need North Carolina. This is a national pulling series. We don't need to be, centered around the Midwest, and we need these events out east. We need, Western, South. We need them all over, so we got to get that event back.
I think the only thing I would say that I will not miss about Benson is wearing the dirt home.
Oh, the red clay.
Everything is top notch, top shelf. But at the end of the night, if you're out there around the track and the dust is flying, you're wearing it, and you're going home to the shower, and you're using multiple washcloths to get that red clay off your skin, because it will just become you. But I agree. What a venue. It's a wonderful place. Lots of concrete there, plenty of parking for the big rigs, and they always roll out the red carpet for everybody, and they're great. They feed you, they take great care of you during the day, in between sessions, and it's the microphones and the PA systems are great. The people there are great to work with, and I hope that they can at some point figure out how to bring back a pull over there, because I think I understand now the focus will be primarily on drag racing, and I get that. It's a top-notch drag facility as well, but to your point, I hope they don't forget, that piece of it. And I think, I have never gone to the Bluegrass Festival there, but I'd also heard that Mr. Wells put on a fantastic bluegrass music festival down there called the Galat Bluegrass Festival. So
yeah, as far as, like you say, facility-wise, you cannot find a finer facility, and for those folks that have never been down there, the pulling track, the grandstand set up at the end of the drag strip there off the return road there, and use it for monster trucks, tractor pulling, and it just laid out absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
so
engineered for the puller and the competitor and the fan in mind as well. It's just it's a top-notch facility, and I feel like they're shooting themselves in the feet if they don't bring pulling back there at some point.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, now the season will now kick off in Hutchinson, Minnesota. Ricky Rose and his group up there putting that event on, and get the opportunity to go up there for the first time this year.
I'm excited for you to do that. It's one that I've kind of always wanted to attend. It's kind of on my bucket list. I've never made it yet, but I'm excited that you get to experience that, and you can kind of bring the stories to us and let us know, what you thought about it being up there in the great state of Minnesota for a couple of days.
and I've heard great crowds, have been, last few years, the crowd just getting better and better up there. And, 6 Grand National classes get us started for the season, and kind of, the warm up here for the next week, as we've got the one in Farley. So you go from points to no points.
Right. When you guys were talking about the Enderle, that was kind of one thing I was going to talk about. Like, for me, I'm a purist, just like Miles is, and the Enderle always used to be like what we would consider the all-star event, And so now that you make that sort of a points hook, maybe Farley becomes the all-star event. You know what I mean? Like, because of the entry fees and the amount of the purse, like, so maybe they shift it to, Farley, where the stars kind of come out there. So like, and we don't really lose the all-star portion of it, because I think that's important.
Right. Yeah, kind of a earn your way into kind of thing, kind of deal, and that the Enderle had become, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting regardless. I can't wait to see what goes on up there. It's going to be. I just hope they have great weather, and like, I know it usually rains at least one day in Iowa, and I hope Hutch is dry for you as well.
Yeah, because last year, both events lost their second sessions there, so. We're hoping for good weather both Friday and Saturday night up in Hutch, 7:00 both nights. And then the following Thursday, we move into a kind of I shouldn't say a new format, but we haven't seen this format in quite a few years, the qualifying format, more or less like we see down at the Championship Tractor Pull down in Louisville. You got to qualify to get into Saturday night.
Sure. And it's come with a hefty price tag, so everybody's got to be on their game. I mean, the entry fees to make this purse what it is are not cheap. So everybody wants to make the finals at any cost. So it's going to make it so much more important, I think. And like I say, I think that's where the weather and the atmosphere and all of that comes into play, because you've got to have dry weather, and you got to have a good draw, and the track's got to be good. So there's just a whole lot of drama I feel is going to play out. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all comes to pass.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Miles. I think it's going to be more of a different atmosphere than we've seen at other polls. I think I've got this feeling like everybody's going to have their A game face on, ready to go Thursday. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You never know, but it's just everybody is going to be on kill, ready to go for that. Your qualifier first, you got to qualify, and then then secondly, make it into Saturday and to win the big bucks. So I mean, it's you got to have a couple really good runs there over the weekend, and yeah, I don't know. To me it seems like that's going to be the is everybody going to be a little edgy that that weekend, or
I think from the minute they get on site, it's game on. Like, it's get your game face on and let's go. Like, it won't be nobody's going to rest until they are locked into Saturday night. I have a very sneaking suspicion.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I think the format, you go back to RJ's roots and Brandon's roots with dirt racing as well, and what the track's known for is dirt racing. So it's not uncommon for a 50,000 to win type of main or feature to occur in the dirt series. So for them, we're going to do things a little bit differently, because we don't have consies, and we're not going to have qualifying heats and things like that per se, all in one big show like they do, where they run for 50,000. But I will say that they've even gotten to the format now where you're starting to see a 5,000 to win on a Friday night type of deal. So everybody can come get their setup and get their, their chassis configured and their shocks ready and tire configuration and all the things they want to do. And then they come back on Saturday for hot laps and ready to go. So, I think we've already taken one of those questions. Dan's work from 2 weeks ago and 10 days ago kind of gives us an idea of, one, who's going to compete there, and two, what's the pulling order going to be. Now, the puller per se isn't going to necessarily know what track conditions are like, but anybody that's been in the history can tell you if they study a hook here or there, whether early numbers and later numbers have been better at Farley, you can look at the results and kind of get an idea. So anxious to get there and anxious to be a part of that event and up close and watch somebody win $50,000. I know what it meant like for me to pass out 10,000 at Bowling Green and 10,000 at the truck show, and I can only imagine what it'll be like for us to get to deem a $50,000 winner on multiple occasions.
Well, and I can't wait to see it. I don't get, of course, to go with you guys, but I will be watching from home and cheering everybody on, and I can't wait to experience it. It's going to be really neat.
So moving along in the NTPA schedule here throughout the summer, we got some other marquee events. Of course, the Big 50th coming up there in Toma, and that'll be the next one on the schedule there. And Miles, you're one of the voices up there at the Budweiser Dairy Lane Super Nationals. What do they got planned for the Big 50th?
Well, I to be quite honest with you, there's lots of discussion towards the end of the year last year of what they were going to do. I will say one of the things they introduced at the 49th was a commemorative cup for one class, basically in memorial of David Schreier. And so I think they'll be doing that again. I think they chose last year who runs for it this year. And I think the modified tractor class, if I'm not mistaken, is the class that gets to run for that extra prize for 2025. I know there was some discussion as well about, I think, potentially the Clydesdales and some things like that coming in the future as well with their relationship with Budweiser and that kind of deal. But I have no idea to verify that or prove that or anything. I just hope that as we work our way down the path, there are some pretty neat things coming, I'm sure, with Chris and the crew up there for the fans' experience for 50 years.
We just hope for good weather.
Absolutely.
We just hope for good weather. Because they have been really snake bit with weather here the last. Seems like it's been the last 10 years or so. It's been like that. It just can't seem to shake Mother Nature for this event. And hopefully this year she shines on them. And
absolutely.
Everything, all the sessions get in, and we don't have to cancel anything. But got another big one coming up. Chapel Hill, Tennessee. They'll be celebrating their big 50th as well. And Chase's podcast a couple weeks ago, they talked about the super stock diesel trucks running down there. But then we go to Fort Recovery. We got Brandenburg the next weekend, and a couple more big events there. And then Brandenburg. What year are they on down there, Jeremy? As far as Brandenburg working.
I think they're in the 40s.
Okay.
I can vouch for the fact that I think it was 85 or so was the first year I went down there, but that was a KTPA hook, kind of a run what you brung, pull till the middle of the night type of scenario. And I've shared that story many times about how that was the most angry Donna Krieger ever got in history.
I was going to say your dad got beat on for that one, didn't he?
He got told off. Pretty
but I can vouch for that for sure to go back into 40 and the uniqueness and coolness of that event and the venue and the hard work that the Phillips family put into putting that event on with the folks from the Meade County Fair. It's pretty remarkable. So and I want to encourage people to make that a step, be there. There are several others celebrating big years and other events that way as well. And certainly it's kind of a just each year, it seems like the history gets deeper and deeper at some of these events.
Well, and it's a fun place to be. Meade County and the Brandenburg facility is another one of those, I think, underrated places to see a bull if you never have. The way they have it cut out into a bowl shape, and you got to go down into a tunnel to get into the arena. And there's really not a bad seat in the house. And of course, I enjoy it because their format is very much like Louisville's format, where they pull out the top three and. I get the pleasure of interviewing those guys, and that's always pretty fun to do. And it's broadcasted on the local radio station that we could talk about how awesome that has been in past years. But it's just a neat place to be. You got a lot of old timers that can't get back to the fair or whatever for whatever reason, so they just tune in and they broadcast all the fair events for the locals. It's a pretty neat facility, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I say, I hope we have great weather. It's usually pretty hot there, but if we could just have Mother Nature be kind to us this summer, that would be good for sure.
One thing I kind of like with that event too is how they swap out the trucks. Every other year they kind of give the fans chance to see this 4-wheel drive.
They never move the light supers, and they never move. They always keep the super farms, so they keep 3 constant, and then every other year it's either 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive.
Yeah, because once you lose one of those big classes, a lot of times you won't get it back, so you got to hang on to that particular class. But then the next weekend, moving to Rockwell, Iowa. Yep. There's an event that has gotten bigger and bigger over the years, and it like last year, it was really good to see a lot of the competitors, make their way out there. It seemed like the first few years, it kind of gained some momentum and, getting the numbers up there. But, it looked like last year things were, really starting to, get to, and it sounds like another thing is they go out of their way to, to give, the pullers anything they need, and, the facility, they keep, upgrading it. And, that's really cool to see.
Absolutely. And they do a great job. And then, like I say, that's another one I've not ever been to, but I've watched it several times on live streams over the years. And it seems like a very well run event. And they got a great announcing staff there. And it's going to be a great event to see as well. I'm excited about it. I don't think there's a bad weekend. Like we talked about this last week, but I'm just really excited to watch these light mods, guys. I think this is going to be the class that just kind of comes to the top of the pile this season. I'm going to make that prediction.
Okay. I agree. I think that's going to be the class in the future here that, a lot of the competitors that we've seen kind of step away from the sport, kind of get back into it. And, it's not as big an investment as we've seen like a 4 or 5 engine tractor, so right. I think you'll see maybe some of the 2-wheelers will step up, into that class. And then, some of the pullers that kind of stepped away, and hopefully they'll come on back. And so then Napoleon, Ohio will be the next one the following weekend. And they've added another track to their setup over there is what the word I've heard.
Okay.
Been a single track for a bunch of years, and now they've added another track to handle all the vehicles there. And of course, that's kind of the warm up, to the big one.
Right, getting close to the National Tractor Pulling Championships, but it'll be interesting to see August the 9th. So if you're around that way, and I know that's on top of Hillsboro with PPL the same weekend. So August the 9th, if you are around, make sure you hit up Napoleon, Ohio. That'll be another great one to see.
So then moving along, we've got, the third weekend in August, National Tractor Pulling Championships, Bowling Green, Ohio.
The big go.
How many can we get this year? That'll be the will the numbers get bigger?
Hey, Harold.
Yeah. yeah. That's
there's 11.
Great
there's
event out there.
Of them.
And one thing Miles and I get to do out there is the Hall of Fame, and that every year is always just a great event. And the the Rusty Tailgate out there, it's always a lot of fun to, a lot of the history there with Bowling Green. And, last year I had the opportunity to get over into the Blue Shirts, their building over there with their warehouse, I guess you would call, where they have their meetings and everything. And it's just a lot of neat things over there. A lot of, they've got some pieces of the old Heartbreaker sled over there, and just different old, classic items that you've seen over the years. So if you get a chance to get in there, it's pretty cool. You have to have a blue shirt kind of take you in there, but it's pretty neat to see.
Absolutely. Well, and that place is just, it's like the Puller's Field of Dreams. It's just a wonderful place, and it's magical. And if you've never gone, you need to go. And I've made the decision. I'm coming this year regardless. I'll be there if I'm watching or spectating or working or whatever it is I'm doing. I will be at the National Tractor Pulling Championships. It's been quite a few years since I've made the trip, but I have decided I will be there this year. So I will come and bring you guys water and keep you hydrated.
I think there's, like for, I don't know, many years, I've been able to announce the pull. And there were a few years where I did the road show and was able to kind of have some discussion with some of the legends and that kind of deal. But this last 3 years where Dan and I have really been able to host that Rusty Tailgate Party, which has also been kind of molded into the Hall of Fame. So we do the Rusty Tailgate Party, and then right after we conclude that, we introduce the Hall of Fame inductees. And, last year getting to see the Heilman family was pretty awesome, and they were with us, and there have been others where we got to be able to witness that. Dad obviously got to be put in with Harold a few years ago, which was pretty awesome and a sweet gesture from the folks in blue. But I think they're really thinking now even more in depth on who makes this and how are they making these decisions this year. And Dan, it's so terrible that I don't remember the full history of it, but Brian had put together a remarkable program with a story about the history of the two gentlemen that were in, because they were very influential kind of in helping BG really get up and running and going. And you think about 50 some odd years now, or I think 57 or 58 years, that's a long time.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, we got to hear a cool story, involving your dad, and that whole deal. And yeah, that's the things that you love to hear, the different things. And
that was a pulling vehicle's name that we will not, will not share on the.
I don't know about you guys, but I mean, do you get that a lot? Like I get that too. Like people want to hear Bowling Green stories, like all of the time. Like people who've not gone or people who have gone. What's your most memorable story about Bowling Green? And I have so many that I can't narrow it down to one. But the first year Miles and I went, I think this is one I will never forget. We came back to the hotel after the whole pull was over, and we were staying at a place called the Buckeye Budget Motor Lodge. It's long gone now. There's a group of fans hitting golf balls into the cornfield outside, adjacent to the parking lot at probably 2:30 in the morning. As we're traipsing back into the room, Donna Krieger not happy that we were out that late, but they see Butch and call Butch over, and of course they make him tee one up and drive one into the cornfield, as it were. And we I think about that every time now I'm passing by where that place used to be coming into town. But I mean, I have 100 of those stories, but I feel like Bowling Green is just it's hallowed ground. It just really is. It's a special place
for sure. Yeah, it's just
Mom
great.
Proved
all the different stories.
Say again, Mom.
Mom proved to Jeremy and I that she was angelic up there one particular year as well. Jeremy and I had the bright idea that we should camp.
Oh, God.
Okay. So we actually
you've not heard this story.
We bought ourselves a campsite, bought ourselves a tent, an air mattress, and the whole rigmarole so that we could be full-fledged BG campers. And needless to say, it rained like cats and dogs. We left the leaf of the tent open, and at which point we woke up, we were floating in our air mattress. So our sweet mother took all of our wet clothes, took our tent and the leaf and everything to the laundromat and washed it all. She hung out the tent so that it would dry, and we got the bright idea that, okay, the next step we need is we're going to go to Steve Jack's. And Steve Jack's was parked directly across from the bathroom that is on the way to the campground, the shower house where everybody showers. Well, needless to say, he gets us a Shell Rotella 10 by 20 tent.
We're under a canopy.
Under the 10 by 20 tent. We go to the Saturday night pull, and we come back to our tent to find that it is floating the water main
had broken on the
shower. And it broke directly under our tent.
And Donna Krieger's face was like, hell with y'all. I'm not doing it again. You guys are done. You can sleep in the river. I don't care.
So needless to say, did you guys, the next year, did you camp or was that it?
We were in a swine barn. We made sure we found a spot with some of our European friends in one of the barns there. And we stayed there for probably the next 10 years.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. It just, it's crazy to think about just all the fun we've had. And certainly there are some folks that travel over from Europe every year that have some deviated septum issues and need to have some CPAP machines. They've kept Jeremy and I awake many a night, but needless to say, after announcing we need to get to the hotel and get some sleep, and I've learned that too. I'm less likely to stay up too late and be there. So
the only way
there's so much to think about, and obviously in this particular episode here, we are highlighting NTPA and their events that are coming up, and certainly the new hooks that might be bringing some excitement to us. I think our plan and vision will be over the course of the coming weeks to sort of look at some other series, discuss some of their key events, some of the new things that are coming, certainly with the outlaw side, and certainly events that might be happening with the Hot Shot Secrets events with Pro Pulling League, and as we dig a little bit deeper, talk about some of what those summer events might look like as well. So, as you dig and you look and you kind of circle sort of where things occur, I used to always be sort of my thought process that turning point of the season was always right around Meade County Fort Recovery weekend from the NTPA side. Is where you really wanted to make sure you were honing in, and I think now with Rockwell and with some of these other events that have kind of filled in there, that sort of weekend right before Bowling Green used to be the trip to the hottest pull down in Saluda on the NTPA side that they don't make anymore. But there's still plenty of that weekend with hooks in Napoleon and some busyness there. So, as you start to schedule your summer out and you start to think about where you're going to go pulling and what you're going to do, I think you want to be in the hunt come Meade County Fort Recovery weekend for sure.
So then from, Bowling Green, move on to Wellington, Ohio. Wellington, Ohio will be the next weekend after that. And then you got, Labor Day weekend. You got Labor Day weekend with Wauseon, Ohio, and, Canton, Ohio. We had the opportunity to go out to Canton last year, and a lot of fun, that event.
That was so much fun. We had a ball, and I've said it a million times, but give me that classic Superstock class all day. I want to see it every day. I loved it.
Yes, D21s. I think we had 5 or 6 of them out there, and hadn't seen that in quite a while. So yeah, that was
amazing.
That was good to see, and Danny has done a lot. Danny Schmucker has done a lot out there with that event, and brought it to to where it is now, and it just keeps building more and more momentum each and every year, and good to see that event there. Starting to really become one of those destination pulls there on the weekend, for Labor Day weekend, and hope everything goes well for them.
That's another trip, Dan Mayer, where we didn't sleep. We get home and we get to the hotel, and it's like 1:30, and you're like, yeah, we're going to be on the road by 4. We're going drag racing tomorrow. And I'm like, what?
That's right. Yes, we had to. Yes. U.S. Nationals, you had
we
to.
Slept 2.5 hours so we could get to Indy by the time the first pair was in the water at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. That was that
was nothing wrong with that.
No, sir.
No, done that the last couple of years, and the pullers, everybody kind of converges there. Whether you're coming from Wauseon or you're coming from Canton, everybody kind of meets up there and has a good time. And yeah, that's another one. Now this year with the following week with Sandwich, and then you got then the Enderle here. So you got another event on top of that. So that'll be interesting. How everybody comes out of Sandwich. And now, Jeremy, you were there last year for that event.
It was neat. It was it was very big. Like it was, I'd heard that the fair was quite a fair, but it really is. But it was really neat the way they did it. Having they have a session Thursday night, then they have a concert Friday night, and then they have 2 sessions on Saturday. They have a morning and then an evening session. And last year was pretty neat to watch. Colin Ross, of course, he did his thing in the open supers, or the diesel supers that day, and that was also the day that Travis Schlaball split the block and shot things out the side of that tractor. But it was a neat pull. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and of course worked that with Aaron Hartwell for Full Pull Live, and enjoyed it quite a bit. It's a neat place as well. It's another one that you should mark on your list if you've never made it. And it's real close to Chicago, not far at all from Chicago proper, so you could make a weekend of it, do some sightseeing and do some pulling as well.
You actually had a points battle that was going in there pretty tightly with Leichner and Simon making his late run there, trying to get into it. And the pro stock battle was not completely sewed up, but close to sewed up there for Brett Meyer on his win. But, as you start to dig through some of those events as well, kind of unique to have the middle of the week sort of hook and then come back on Saturday with the others. And that's been one that many people have really loved to go to. So I have not been to Sandwich. I need to go there. There's a big breeder of South Down sheep there that I need to see as well. So maybe someday I can make that run. But
Sandwich is another one of those guys where the weather is very, very finicky. Like at Toma or at Bowling Green, it might be 87 degrees in the sunshine at noon and 42 degrees when the sun goes down. Like it was like when that pull was over with, the pro stock guys had a chili. They had chili cook-off and bonfires because it was that cold. Everybody was in hoodies and gloves and toboggan hats, and it was cold. It was chilly after that pull, and we had a nice I think I want to say Tim Kane and his crew had made a pot of chili that day, and they were kind enough to share it with some of us. But I was ready to get back to the hotel because it was cold for sure.
Now, was it Glencoe cold or was it?
Yes,
it was.
It was Glencoe cold. Yes, sir.
It was,
but I wasn't. It was, I had been inside all night, so I wasn't. I didn't have to adjust. I walked from the trailer to get a bowl of chili. Visited with some of the pro stock pullers and the schmuckers there for a minute, and had a nice bowl of chili, and then got in the car and drove to. I think I was in Naperville. I want to say. I think that's where I stayed. So just drove to my hotel from there, and then got up the next morning and rolled on out. But it was cool, and I want to say I don't remember who the concert was, but there was a very fairly popular artist there on Friday night. They always kind of have a big name come.
All right. Well, and like we say, then the season now will conclude the following weekend at the Enderle Pull-Off in Urbana, Ohio. Now with the top 5 from each class and the Grand National circuit, gonna battle it out there for the championship, and all your champions will be crowned now in Urbana the following weekend. So, there it is, the NTPA Grand National schedule. And of course, they've got a bunch of regionals they'll run, and, they got 4 or 5 different regions that they'll run throughout the summer. And there you go. Riley Green.
I knew it was somebody whose last name was Green. I just couldn't remember his first name, but it was a big to-do. Like, I think he had 3 of those, nice Prevost buses and a couple semis. And so, I assumed he was fairly big, but I don't know his music very well.
You wouldn't. He's New Country.
Yeah, exactly.
New Country. There you go.
Away from New Country.
I've learned something here these last few podcasts. I got to get me a comfortable seat like you guys do. I can't. This wooden seat I'm sitting on makes me. It's horrible.
Got to be comfortable. But like Miles said, the next couple of weeks here, we'll touch on the Outlaw circuit. There are marquee events as well as the PPL circuit as things start to get rolling here. The Outlaws will get rolling the same weekend as Hutch, June 6th and 7th in Ravenna, Nebraska. Long-time event out there, so they're going to get their season rolling here. Yeah, there you go, June 6th and 7th. And, they've got and we'll touch on some of their marquee events here in the coming weeks. And next week, we've got our first list will be unveiled for the event in Hutchinson, Minnesota. And it'll be interesting. You guys have seen the list come out for, the PPL circuit as well as the NTPA side, and see any real surprises on there that, kind of caught you off guard, or was it pretty well? That's what I kind of thought. I thought it was pretty well who you'd expect, and different here and there. But there we see the Wisconsin tractor pullers as well. They'll be starting June 6th and 7th, and that big event in Ellsworth, Wisconsin. That's always a big Region 3 event there for the NTPA side of things. So lots of great pulling coming. And well, guys, I think that's pretty much about it here for this week. We kind of covered the NTPA side of things, and like we say, in the coming weeks, we'll touch on the other circuits here. And of course, this weekend got the big full pull live event in Prairie du Sac with the Badger State Pullers, and going to have that event on Full Pull Live. That'll be on May 31st, 4 o'clock. So make sure if you do have a subscription to Full Pull Live, or you're not a subscriber, make sure you do, because lots of great events. Over 160 events this year will be on Full Pull Live between NTPA Grand National. We've got the Outlaw Pullers, Outlaw Regional Pullers, NTPA Region events, as well as the Wisconsin Tractor Pullers. So all kinds of great events coming this summer. So it's going to be, before you know it, guys, it's going to be September. We're going to go, where did it all go,
Absolutely. Well, before we go, I've already told you guys what I'm most excited about, and that's the light mod class on the Grand National circuit. I want to know what you guys are most excited about and looking forward to the most within this coming season.
I'm a modified guy every year, so I'm really hoping that the unlimited class, I've heard rumors, with Wayne Purser coming back and Billy Beers coming back, and let's get back up around that 10 to 12 tractors in the unlimited class. I mean, the mod class is pretty, they're sitting pretty good. I mean, they've got good numbers. Like you said, the light mod class, that's going to be interesting to see. But I'd say for myself, all the mod classes, I just every year look forward to what they bring to the table, and that'll be, but diesel supers too. It sounds like diesel supers are going to have a few more tractors, which they need, and that'll be, another class to see if Colin will dominate again this year. So that'll be this couple things. How about you, Miles?
Yeah, I think the thing I keep playing the game in my mind, and I was going to pose that question to you guys, and I think maybe we save this topic for next week or the coming weeks, but that'd be from each class, which, if you put them all together, which champion do you think is most likely to defend? And I think that's a pretty difficult question to answer. There are a few that did defend from year to year or back to forth, but I think there are a few. I think the resurgence of some folks back in this game is one thing I want to watch. I'm really anxious to see how new vehicles and how drivers moving to new classes, primarily in the mini rod division, or somebody moving into the light mod class, like a Tom LaRue, who has the boss's old tractor and is going to run that setup, I think, here in the coming week or two. There's a lot of new pieces coming out. And so, like, you think about in the time of growth and the time of the sport, maybe it's just so neat right now to think about the fact that more and more and more people are investing in this sport. And so for me, I'm anxious to see who the new people are that might win and who new competitors in the class might win. What does it look like for a Mason Theobald to strap into a brand new Mini, and what does he do over the course of the season with his mom and dad and brother already knowing how to dial those things in? And what does a Tanner Nelson look like when he steps into the two-wheel drive class, or how does Peter Norton handle his mini rod, and those sorts of things are things I want to talk about and think about and look at over the course of this summer, and see if they may factor in. All of them seem to have really top-notch equipment, and I think that's a pretty big deal. And then I think in the pro stock tractor class, I would really like to see do the red tractors. Is this the year, that the red tractors just come back out and we see them go 1-2 in a point series, or see them potentially win half the Grand National events and prove themselves even deeper. So there's a lot to kind of unfold here. And like I said, I think we can probably devote a whole hour to some of these topics and fill a 15-minute segment each with them. But, as I look to the summer, I'm anxious to see some friends and anxious to get back to some of my favorite events, and anxious to make my way back up to Toma and just experience the hospitality of that wonderful place. And I'm anxious to make my first ever trip to Farley and see what that place is all about, and watch somebody win $50,000 and get to shake their hand and see kind of how they handle that. So, for me and for a lot of folks, as you dig, $50,000 is a really, really, really big amount of money. For some of our folks in the sport of pulling, we may look at it at times to think it's not, because they're already so invested and they're spending so much money in these pieces of equipment. But at the end of the day, $50,000 is a lot of money, folks.
That's it. And I think, the eyeballs that it's going to bring to the sport, I think that is going to be, hopefully one of the big benefits for, doing an event like this, is just, the sponsors to say, hey, oh, wow, look at that, and, handing out those big checks and the Happy Gilmore checks with the big number on there, and the champagne, and and who knows what else RJ's got planned up there. He may have the crown of roses. You just don't know. So that'll be neat, and the eyeballs it'll bring. Hopefully it'll the sponsors and everybody there. So that that's going to be, it's coming quick.
Be here before you know it.
For sure. All right, guys. Well, that'll take us to the end here, episode number 11. Once again, make sure you tune in this weekend, 31st, Prairie du Sac, as the Badger State Pullers get their season up and rolling. That'll be on Full Pull Live this weekend, and and there you go, right there, one of those big checks. Except it'll have a big 50,000 on it, not $40. But some great things coming here in the coming weeks. And with that, you guys got anything you want to add before we sign off here tonight?
Just want to say thanks to everybody, and keep interacting with us. Send us your DMs and your messages and texts, and let us know what you think. And just thank you for watching, and thanks to everybody at Full Pull for giving us this platform.